Josh, let's just get right into the news from yesterday. First one I guess I'll hit you up on is Reuben Foster, the outstanding linebacker from Alabama. There was evidently already some off-field concerns. Then he got kicked out of the combine for yelling at the people over at the hospital because he was frustrated waiting for an MRI. Now it comes out, he tells NFL media that he tested positive for a diluted sample, which is the same as a positive test. At what point are we concerned about this guy, Josh? And at what point do we think this starts to really hurt him and he falls down the draft board?
I think teams are still figuring that out, Ross. In fact, I know of 3 teams who are visiting with him this weekend, sending a few members of their staff down to, kind of get a final feel for him and then come back and discuss him some more on Monday. I've heard from a number of people that Reuben Foster is a top 2 talent on the field. That's what his tape is. I mean, when you watch him, Ross, he's an absolute missile at the second level. He's a really, really good player. And I thought before this, maybe the latest he could be on the board would be 11 to the Saints or the Ravens. But now we've seen it a number of times in the past with talented prospects like, Telvin Smith, for example, Randy Gregory. Each case is individual, but I could absolutely see Reuben Foster still stay in the top 15 or fall outside the top 32.
Yeah, and most people will tell you he's one of the 2 or 3 best players in this draft.
He's really good. I mean, and there was I think he did a piece with the MMQB's Robert Klemko, and Klemko talked about how some teams had some frustration with him in terms of how he acted on the whiteboard and being able to diagnose plays. But then, I mean, Ross, you can't play and star in Nick Saban's defense if you don't know the defense, right? And so anytime actual film is up there, he's actually on the field, I mean, there is no hesitation to his game. I think he's a plug-and-play starter immediately at the second level, both in the running game and the passing game.
Talking with Josh Norris, the NFL draft writer for NBC Sports. It's interesting for me, Josh, and I got to imagine that there are some teams that have the same mindset. But for any of these guys, any one situation typically I can live with. But as soon as there's a second one, that's when I really, really get concerned. Like even the Joe Mixon stuff that came out recently where there was this report back in high school that a dad said that he had assaulted his daughter, and then the dad later recanted it. There's nothing on his record, none of that stuff. But obviously we've all seen the video of the day after his 18th birthday when he hit the girl at Oklahoma. But to me, Josh, even the fact that the father posted what he posted on Facebook when Joe Mixon was in high school, that is extremely troubling because even if he later recanted, it's still now a second situation in the same realm of conversation in terms of behavior.
Well, and it's new information that teams will have to respond to and answer to if they do add them. I mean, we hear it all the time and see it all the time with these prospects that something is made a big deal in December and January. I mean, I'll give you this example. Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey, sitting out their team's bowl games, their school's bowl games. When was the last time we talked about that in this draft process? We get over a lot of these things just because of the recent information.
I also want to get into some of the comments recently by DeShone Kizer, the Notre Dame quarterback.
I love it.
It's in a USA Today article. I mean, he went, I'm going to read you the money quotes, okay? Name a college quarterback who goes into game plan meetings on Monday and throws his notes at the coaches. No one else game plans the way I do. No one else prepares the way I do. No one else can do what I can do. And I've truly figured out in this process, if I can maximize all my potential in every aspect of the game, this is bold. I do have the ability to be the greatest quarterback to ever play. Imagine taking Brady's intellect and Brady's preparation and putting it on a guy with Cam Newton's body. Why can't I be the greatest? The only thing stopping me from it is me. That's what's driving me now. End quote. So your reaction to that quote, Josh?
Okay, usually I'm not into all this self-appreciation stuff, but Ross, I love this. Because if his head coach isn't going to do it for him, why not do it for yourself? I think the things that Brian Kelly said about DeShone Kizer was extremely unfair. Even if it might be honest, I think it's extremely unfair during this draft process because look what just his counterpart in Dabo Swinney and Deshaun Watson, how he's describing Deshaun Watson during this draft process, calling him the Michael Jordan of football and things like that. Meanwhile, Brian Kelly's out there. And Ross, to me, with what Kelly's comments are publicly, it just makes me question what he's saying privately as well. And then the fact that Kelly's going to the draft to just quote-unquote support DeShone Kizer, give me a break. But Kizer is someone who I think, Ross, 2015 DeShone Kizer is the best quarterback tape out there in this class. You look at what he did, stepping up as a 19-year-old, as a third-string quarterback in spring practices, stepping in early in the season, finding open receivers in terms of handling pressure in the pocket, keeping his eyes up. Again, I can't answer to as why his 2016 stuff is not nearly as good as 2015. But again, if there's one quarterback that I want in this class, it's 2015 DeShone Kizer.
So here's the thing I don't understand. We're talking with Josh Norris, the NBC Sports NFL draft writer here on the Dan Patrick Show. When all the initial mock drafts came out and all the initial rankings came out, everybody had DeShone Kizer as one of the top 1, 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks, maybe 3. But a lot of mock drafts, he was going in the top 10. A lot of rankings, he was the number 1 quarterback. Patrick Mahomes from Texas Tech was 4th or 5th in most of the rankings. Every once in a while, maybe you found him going like pick number 30 or something, but usually was high second round. Here we are a couple months later, and mind you, Josh, neither one of these guys have actually played in a football game. And now DeShone Kizer is talked about like he's the 4th or 5th quarterback. And Pat Mahomes, people might think, might go in the top 10. How does that happen that people are changing their rankings and they're changing their mock drafts and everything that much since the last time these guys actually played football?
So, one, I can only speak for myself, and I've had Kizer as the top quarterback since December, okay? But 2, I think you have to realize or think about what has happened since then in the last month. In the last month has been the pro day process in terms of executives and position coaches being on the trail. And a lot of big draft media has been attending these pro days and talking to these coaches and everything. And I think off those comments, Ross, what you just read of Kizer, you can tell that Kizer is an individual. You know, he might rub people the wrong way. Look, so no one's going to get along, or not everyone's going to get along with DeShone Kizer. So I think he might just have rubbed some teams the wrong way. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of them maybe even was his old head coach at Notre Dame. And obviously former coaches have a strong say in the process as well. Something happened there. It, like you mentioned, it wasn't on the field. And I think if we can extrapolate those comments, it might just be that some of these teams might be turned off by that confidence. But again, I think back in 2015, DeShone Kizer is the best quarterback in this class.
You know, it's interesting to me, Josh, because you say you love his comments. I would tend to believe that most teams will look at this and say, why would he say those things? It doesn't help him. Like, how does it help you to say I can be a Cam Newton-Brady combo? If I were an executive, I'd say, all right, now we got one other thing we need to worry about with Kizer, that he doesn't know that there's no upside to making comments like that. How does he benefit? There's no upside.
That was your same reaction, right, to the Myles Garrett comments, correct?
Yes, about saying that he's not necessarily the smartest guy in the draft, but he's up there. Yeah.
Look, I think that these guys are individuals, you know, and I kind of embrace individuality. And many times with these prospects, we even know that they get coached during the interview process. And just to throw out cliches and whatever other NFL quarterbacks or players do in the NFL, right? To me, I understand that on paper that might not sound correct. It might not sound preferable. But I like when these guys show a little bit of personality. And we've absolutely seen in the past that the NFL is turned off by that. But specifically in Kizer's case, I love it because his head coach is not doing it at the college level, even though he should be, because, I mean, that's just another form of recruiting, is adding players to the NFL.
No question about it. Josh, always appreciate the time. Terrific stuff. Thanks so much for coming on.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
There he is, Josh Norris from NBC Sports. He is their NFL draft writer.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.